Everybody start recording now.
Yeah, recording.
And we are recording. Excuse me.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to YOUmedia Miami's virtual podcast. We're representing the Miami-Dade Public Library System. So we're going to go around and introduce ourselves. My name is Vianney Bell, and I am a library media project specialist here.
Cool. Arby, I'm Arby. I am a library media project instructor at Lemon City, but I work between all three branches.
And it's your girl Shamir. I'm one of the instructors at the North Dade Regional. And yeah, can't wait to speak to our guest here. Let's go.
Nice. So we have Nikkita Thompson and Daria McCall here. So we would like for you to introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and the work that you're doing today. So whichever one wants to go first, it's up to you.
Well, I'm Daria McCall. I am a producer, experiential producer at Complex Networks. I have worked at Afropunk, Def Jam, and a number of cultural or media companies throughout my career. I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Hey everybody, my name is Nikkita and I am a live event producer currently at New York City Pride, producing the historical traditional Pride events annually. I also freelance in live events and have done some concert touring as well as some broadcast producing and just an overall events person.
That's right.
And where are you both from?
I New York, originally from the Bronx, Boogie Down, Vianney. But residing in Mount Vernon, New York.
I'm from Jersey, right across the bridge.
This is Jersey. No,
yeah,
okay, that's the first thing I thought of. I'm sorry.
I love it.
Nice. And tell us about college. Where did you go to school? And what was your major?
I went to school at Temple. I started off there for 2 years, transferred to Rutgers University. From Rutgers, I then worked for a few years, and then I got my master's degree at School of Visual Arts in New York as a professional studies degree in branding.
And I also went to Temple University, stayed there for about 5 years, and graduated with my bachelor's in education, but it is at Temple where I found my love of events and ended up not using my education degree and just went feet first into events and found that freelancing was kind of my off the beaten path master's school that I put myself through.
Nice.
We actually met together at Temple.
Yes.
And the same organization that Nikkita was mentioning is the same one that kind of got me started in the love for events and branding and being creative as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
And I went to Temple University with them as well. And I was a part of the same organization, main campus program board. Just want to give them a little shout out. Okay, so does anyone want to jump in and ask some questions?
Sure. So I heard you guys use. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ladies first.
Oh, you already started.
No, you got it. You got it. Go ahead, Shamir. You got it.
Oh, I was gonna ask, like, what inspired you or led you to kind of pursue the industries that you guys are in right now?
So what inspired me was, like I said, we were inside this organization which brought events and artists to campus, and we were able to do a lot of temple type events on campus, which really sparked my interest in at least event production. I've always loved music. I've always loved entertainment. I knew that I wanted to be entertainment. Actually, when I was younger, I used to be like, I want Jay-Z to want me. And Jay-Z still doesn't want me, but like, or need me. But it was really something that was like important for me to be a part of something that was consumer facing, and entertainment was kind of like the space that I loved and inspired me. So I wanted to kind of work in it and inspire other people too.
I just wanted to introduce Tab really fast, like
Tab.
so.
Hi, Tab.
Oh, what's good, yo? How everybody doing?
Good. Good, and yourself, man?
My mind is like, bro, I'm tired of being in the house, bro. About to explode.
Okay. Oh man. What location are you from with YOUmedia Miami?
I'm from the north. YOUmedia North.
North side.
North Day Squad.
Come on. We need to come up with a new hand signal.
I'll see.
Yeah.
No, we'll figure it out. But yeah.
What the heck is that?
LC, Lemon City. Like, okay, whatever.
Okay, so Tab Nikkita, we're gonna go into how she was inspired to work in the event world. So Nikkita, you could continue.
Okay.
Yeah. So literally, identical experience of what Daria mentioned with that organization, Main Campus Program Board, that really taught me the behind the scenes of events. I know that when I was graduating and I was looking to use a degree that I earned in college education, a lot of those doors were just not opening for me. And I found an event in Philadelphia that was this really big event, and it called for a production assistant. And so I just went for it, and they were like, hey, we need you to drive this passenger van. And I've never driven a passenger van before, but I figured it out, and I drove this passenger van, and we need you to pick up talent and take them here. And that was my first time seeing the Roots do a live rehearsal and what it takes, the end product of what you see. There's so much that goes behind it. And so that first time being a production assistant, which anyone will tell you is the first step. It's the most grunting, grueling, early mornings, late nights, crazy hours step. But that really, having those production assistant experiences really brought me into loving the behind the scenes of what it takes to actually produce an event.
That's lit. I kind of want to step back to something that I think Daria said before. She was talking about branding and her work with branding and marketing. So what's the difference between the two, between branding and marketing? And I think that can go for you too, Nikkita. What's the difference in y'all opinion between branding and marketing?
So for me, branding is who you are. Marketing is the way that you get the most exposure or build awareness around either your company or the services that you provide. So for me, it's a little different in that branding is the soul. It is the things that you stand by, what you represent, your guiding light, to make sure that everything that you touch really is defined by, what you stated your brand actually is.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Nikkita?
So I think that for me and for what I do, bringing forth the brand and sticking to, as Daria mentioned, that soul and that integrity of the brand is a part of my job with the live event of creating, essentially there is a concept there, it's the brand. And so how to offshoot from that center to create this experience that brings people into that brand is really what I'm mainly focused on. And then making it enticing enough, accessible enough to be marketed to others to get them to come in and have that experience.
Yeah. So a little background on Taff. Taff is actually a rapper. Pretty good rapper. really great, right? So, and most of the teens who probably watch this on YouTube are people who are singers, rappers, songwriters that they aspire to be in the music industry. So what tips would you give a young artist or a young mogul in the music industry on like properly branding themselves?
I think was somebody gonna say something?
No, he was
No,
like,
yeah, because I need this info. I need this information.
So one of the things that, and I'm still trying to figure out because I went to school and it was more around like consumer products. When it comes to personal branding, one of the things that I think is super important and aligns to how consumer products does it is that you really have to start and really get clear as to why you're doing something or what you're trying to portray or what it is, like what's the soul of the reason or the messaging that you support. I recently did this exercise where you write out 3 words that define who you are or what you want your work to get across. And those 3 words are basically like your guiding light so that everything that you create or touch falls within that. And similar to what Nikkita said is that especially with event production or experiential production, experiential marketing or branding in general, it's these offshoots that are just from that center of those 3 words that you created that touch people in that way. So when you're thinking about how, if you're like doing music and you're thinking about how everyone's in the house and now you can use TikTok in a really, really cool way to at least touch people and that being a vehicle, just make sure that the creative kind of offshoots from those 3 words or that soul that you're talking about, that I was mentioning. So like being able to kind of be able to spread out these like center messaging in so many different ways is kind of the ways that you kind of connect with people in different experiences that are similar to what your experience is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
So I was gonna say, some more so, I'll tap into my touring production side with artists is the reason why, identifying who you are and what your brand is so important is because when it does come time, right, you're in the studio, you're making these songs, now you have to actually go out there and get people to like these songs. And so how are you going to do that? You need to perform, right? How are you going to pay for the performance if you're going to have a DJ with you, if you're going to have a band, if you're going to have dancers, if you're going to have graphics? All of those things cost money. And so you need to be able, whether it's you yourself that's pitching for yourself, or if you have an agent or a manager, they need to be able to take a package and give it to the Coca-Colas or give it to Shea Moisture. I just did my hair, so. But they need to be able to give it to a brand, and then a brand say, yeah, I see $50,000 of value in this for you to hit 5 markets and go out and produce your music, but then and go out and perform your music, but also to represent our brand. Like, giving you $50,000 to go on this 5-city tour, gives us like 100,000 followers, on our Instagram, or likes or comments. It all comes down to a number. So figuring out that soul of who you are and what that brand is important to like get you to that next step of like getting out there and getting the money.
I think just kind of piggybacking off of what Nikkita said as well is that even being able to, what she's talking about is like mutual relationship. It's like I'm coming to, a brand is coming to you for you to provide them with some value, and you're coming to them for them to provide you with some opportunity. So sometimes even going through that list of what is so real to your brand that you can like, at least I start identifying a list of brands that kind of fall within that space. So maybe if you wear Reeboks all the time, then maybe Nike is not the right brand for you to go after. Maybe you need to go after Reebok, or like even being able to be like, this is what my value is, and quantifying that in so many different numbers, and being able to be like, hey, I have this amount of followers on Instagram that are based here, their demo looks like this, and really lay it out so that you're not asking anybody else to do the work. It's just a yes or no decision. And I think that sometimes when it comes to creatives, you get so caught up in like what you do, and you're like, yo, this is the best stuff ever, but like you have to be able to at least present it in a clear way so that people can just get it, like just get it and be like, okay, cool, this works. Like, so I think doing some of that legwork that's a little bit tedious and not necessarily the fun creative stuff is so necessary when it comes to like wanting to get money or wanting to at least get these additional opportunities that brands can like provide you with.
So I'm gonna sit back because I kind of asked like 2 questions in a row, so I'll hand it off to my co-host.
Yeah, do you want to ask any questions, or are you okay for now? Give you an opportunity.
I'm just absorbing the information right now. Yeah, you can go. You can continue. I'll chime in if something comes to mind. I'm just trying to absorb the information.
Okay. All right, we're gonna switch this up and make this a little fun. Tell us, Daria, I'm just curious about how the Justin Bieber campaign went and what was it about, as well as like working with Nipsey Hussle. So a lot of our teams love Nipsey.
Yeah, so for Justin Bieber, I was a marketing coordinator, or marketing is, I think my position was marketing coordinator at Def Jam. And Def Jam was rolling out this the Purpose album for Justin Bieber. So I supported the marketing manager or the product manager, which is someone that manages the full campaign around, or marketing campaign around an album release. We did these murals that were associated with each of the album titles. So as he released an album title, a muralist had like artwork that corresponded to each album. Each track title. And then also we did a event in New York for the album release, which was like a skate park event. When it comes to working with artists and marketing, especially when you're on the record label side, you don't necessarily, you work a lot with the people around them to just think of creatively ideas in order to fully get their messaging or to support a release. So it was my first time working with a big artist. It was my first time working an event. No, I can't say that. It wasn't my first time working an event for an artist, but it was definitely my first time like supporting a release and seeing what that rollout looks like. And then with Nipsey was a little different. We were working with a brand that was the brand was actually Robin Hood, was coming out with like a new movie. And the story with Robin Hood is to take from the rich and give to the poor. So one of the ideas that we came up with is creating this merch collab that was with Born and Raised and with Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey, he identified a community organization that he was that he wanted to donate to, and each of the product pieces were sold to people that attended Complexicon, and those proceeds went to the actual organization. The organization was called Developing Options, which was in support of like at-risk or inner city youth, in order to steer them in the right direction.
Nice. And Nikkita, I'm curious to know what's an experience like with photo shoots? I know that you produced some work for the Pride magazine. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. So we produce just some like reading material that gets sent out over the New York City metro area in advance of Pride, and we put a lot of different articles in there. And the photo shoot experience really is a fun time to like tap into your creative, to really be able to see. I think New York City, similar to Miami, there's so much art, there's so much heritage, there's so much history. And then there are just interesting people. And so you get a chance to present your lens on what you think society looks like right now when you are pulling together a photo shoot. So, for something that I was doing, I did a piece called like Fixtures. And it was supposed to be about just like design and decor. And I reached out to These Pink Lips, which is an artist in Philadelphia who had been doing a lot of feminist, womanist paint art. And Amber Rose had recently wore her outfit to the MTV Music Awards, and there were just a lot of, I think, there was someone else, maybe Cardi had just worn something. Cardi was just coming out and just wore like this fabulous coat. And so it was awesome to go down and like see her studio and see where she gets inspiration from. And then putting, a Black photographer on that to ensure that, we're capturing this person in the right lens. Actually, something that I learned in photography is, it's definitely important to look at the photographer's work ahead of time, but also see if they've shot something that you're looking for, because you want to be sure that they're going to capture what you see, the way that you see it, even though you're not necessarily the person with the camera. And then also this person's going to be editing your work. And so something you should watch out for, especially with as a Black woman and just people of color in general, when the editing is done, sometimes our color is not edited properly in Photoshop, for real. So you want to be mindful of that. You want to be careful with that. But yeah, it's a really fun experience. Anytime that you have an opportunity to say yes to a photo shoot, I say go for it. Because it definitely gives you exposure. People are going to see this. And also, if you have an opportunity for someone else to create content for you, then, right, you just had a slew of photos done, and you can just cherry pick when you want to post to Instagram on your feed or live or wherever you want to do stuff, get some behind the scenes type photos and things like that. A photo shoot is just always a great opportunity, usually for both parties.
Shamir is a photographer. Do you have any questions, Shamir? You want to jump in? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, really cool. And yeah, I definitely agree with you. Definitely doing research on photography. Because not everyone, I don't know, you can't just pick a photographer just because they're a photographer. You want to make sure they have the capable skills to kind of do whatever project you need, and definitely execute your vision proficiently, for sure. Have you, I guess a question, have you ever done photography yourself, or Nikkita?
No, me, I have not. I haven't done photography myself. Being able to go to Pride, where they were producing this publication, and I was asked to become a writer and become an editor in a way of a piece, was really a new experience for me. But I found over time that I really like it. I don't think I can get behind the camera per se to get the shot, but I will be the person that's behind the photographer. Vianney has actually been in one of my photo shoots, and I'll be the person oh, that looks good. Stay there. Keep getting that.
So you're more like a director, I guess. You love to direct.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And do you feel you or Nikkita, having Adobe Photoshop skills, photography skills would benefit you in your careers?
Yeah, for sure. I know that especially when it comes to cleaning up photos, or even when it comes to 3D renderings of actual spaces, just being able to manipulate it in the way that you see fit would be so helpful. And some of the things that I wish I had a lot more formal education when it came to editing images, or editing, or even creating things that I see in my head. Because as a creative, one of the most difficult parts is that I'll have an idea and I can't it's hard for me to verbally explain it, and it would be so much easier if I could mock it up digitally. But instead, I have like a piece of paper where I'm like, this is a box, and it looks like a little bit too, it looks very elementary, as opposed to really having the actual skills to actually create the spaces and like and be able to paint them the way that I see them, as opposed to trying to make sure that what my words are to a designer is actually what I'm actually getting. So that's definitely a skill that I'm trying to learn. But if I had learned it years ago, I would be definitely in a much better place.
Yeah, same. It'd be great to learn more about Photoshop and all those things. I mean, regardless, I think some level of Adobe is just necessary when you're producing, just the type of you'll whatever document you need, or you might get a document that needs to be changed itself. So I know Adobe is something that you even for like the reader or something like that, you do have to like pay sometimes for the basic level. But I think eventually you get to a point in your career where you realize like, I need that, I need at least that basic level of Adobe.
Well, when you're in Miami, feel free to drop by YOUmedia Miami, shameless plug, during our adult hours.
Yeah.
We offer just workshops for adults, but you have to have a library card. But
I've been plotting. I'm like, I'm gonna come visit and stay like some days so I can get at least the beginning steps down.
yeah, we would love to have you, even if you come by as a guest speaker, during one of our workshops. It would be great. Okay, let me see if I have any more questions for you. Okay, tell us about one of your favorite events that you've produced, and how was that experience?
So one of my favorite experiences, and I didn't necessarily quote unquote produce the event, but I managed a production team for Afropunk in Johannesburg. And it was one of the moments that the thing that I love when it comes to events, actually married people that look like me, and being able to be on the ground and working with the teams to capture like content, showing people and showing Black people in such a beautiful light, was like one of the biggest highlights of my career. If I was to choose an actual event, I think Complex Con itself is just ridiculous in that there's so many talented and creative folks that are on the ground. So we created an experience for Uber Eats last year, which was like the first of its kind, which allowed people that were on the ground inside the exhibit hall to order food on demand into this lounge space. Outside of that, we had like a private dining area for VIP and influencer talents. And it just happened that that experience in itself was, since it had been something new, it had so many intricate details and logistics that, you can never, you think that you've planned perfectly for, but in all honesty, sometimes you just haven't planned well enough, or you haven't considered a lot of different things. So you always have these hurdles. So even being able to figure out how to make that event go well, and then even in production mode, being able to like troubleshoot on the spot and see it all the way through, was like it was a testament to how much I've grown as a producer, but also what is actually possible on the ground. So.
What about you, Nikkita?
So I really enjoy large events that just have thousands of people, and they usually involve some sort of music. So, the event that I produced for Pride, which is a free street festival, is a lot of fun for me. And then Made in America Festival in Philadelphia, when that first started, and I was on it for a few years, just to see all these different people coming together to watch rappers, to, you know, whether it be the EDM tent or a pop star or a country singer, you know, festivals like that just bring everyone together. So those experiences are really, really fun for me. But then I also love doing live broadcast. So for the past few years, I've done Times Square, the ball drop. And so just though it's like freezing and crazy, it's just great to be out there and to like be a part of this event that really the whole world experiences as we, you know, as the ball drops, and how all these different elements and all these different things are happening. But to the viewer at home, you have no idea, because that's our job, is to make sure that like nothing happens. And then another really special one was a few years ago, I got a chance to do the Gucci Mane Keisha Kayor wedding that was on live on BET. And that was just such a fun experience, because you're taking someone's wedding, which we know how a wedding works, but now you have to make it work for TV, but you can't let anyone know that it's being done for TV. So there's just a lot that goes into that. And so seeing how that whole thing worked and how we were able to like pull it off, like, you know, just all the natural things that pop up in a wedding, right? So, and this is live, it's happening now. So to be able to like get through it successfully, at the end, it happened. These two people were married and everyone saw it. You know, when you're finished with those events, and then when you look back at the credits and you see that you got a chance to be a part of that, it really is special.
Excellent. And as women of color, how has your experience been in your field of work? Am I breaking up? Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you. Sorry, I had to unmute. It has been interesting. I think that my experience hasn't been always through production. I started off as a marketing manager and then crossed into production. But I think when I started at Afropunk and being able to see so many people behind the scenes, I started kind of at an advantage because there were so many Black people that were a part of it. But production is very much, there isn't a lot of diversity in production. I think that there's a lot of people that are starting to like get involved. So there has been this really interesting, you know, a way of being able to at least make sure that Black creatives are seen, or that Black people with these technical skills are at least given a leg up. Specifically for me, as a producer, I try to make sure that I'm looking at companies that are Black-led or woman-led, because there are so many companies that are overseen just because a lot of those opportunities have gone to or companies that are not led by Black women or people that are considered other. So I think that it has been kind of tough to see, to at least be able to see myself in certain positions, but it's also been amazing to at least give people a place, or at least be able to open those gates to allow people that look like me a chance to either play in that place, or at least have the opportunities that maybe they might have missed out if it could have been another producer of another background. So it's so far it's been interesting, but there are little nuances in there for sure.
That's definitely. What about you, Nikkita?
When I got into production, I was just happy to be there. Like my first production assistant job, I was just so happy to be there. It took me a few more gigs to realize like, oh, I'm the only Black person here. And so I really always counted that as a blessing. I recognized that a lot of people that were in the room did not look like me, but also they were connected to other people in the room. Like this kid is somebody's godson. This is somebody's niece, you know, and I don't have any of those connections. And so I think that put me into this frame of mind that I had to work harder. And so I was usually there first, and I usually left late and was doing everything I could do, but also doing it in a space, that wasn't for me. So there was a lot of code switching going on. There were a lot of racist comments made that I unfortunately at that time, I didn't feel like I could say anything because of the position that I was at of being a production assistant. So that was really hard for me. And I was really happy when I broke away from that environment and got a chance to freelance. And I was taken on by a mentor, Tina Farris, who is the tour manager of The Roots, and does a lot of work in the neo soul and just, tour management spaces. So when she took, me, when, she was able to mentor me and kind of bring me to this, what I feel was a really liberating space of like watching Black people, be the producers and be the production manager behind, things like Roots Picnic, or when you see the Roots on Jimmy Fallon, like there's a whole slew of people that look like us that are working to like make them sound and look and everything great. And then also moving into the pride space where, you can be queer and you can identify as you want. People call you the right pronouns that you prefer. That space is even more liberating, especially when you hear the stories of how people were fighting to have that freedom and couldn't have that. And you get to create that safe space for them. Getting there just made me, absolutely just not holding back. Like, wait, what did you say that we can't do for Black queers of color? No, this needs to be their space. This needs to be an event for them to do. This needs to be an artist that they see, that they don't have to pay for, that looks like them, that they actually listen to. So to be able to be in that space and to advocate for others is huge. And then lastly, as Daria said, bringing other people with you that look like you, making sure I try to do my best. If someone is great, it doesn't matter, race, creed, or orientation, or anything like that. But I am gonna look out for, a woman. I am gonna look out for a Black person, because I know the times. Yes, I remember the times when someone looked out for me, but I also remember times when someone didn't, and a door closed because like there was nobody in that room that looked like me. So there was no even chance. As I was fighting to get into that room, there was no one that was gonna even at least crack the door a little bit. So that pushes me to like make sure that I'm bringing, others with me.
That's powerful. Thank you guys for sharing that.
I think Vienna is frozen. But
yeah, I think she
yeah, she kind of got frozen to position. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna have one last question, and I think we can end it off here, Shamir. Because we've been here for a good long time. But again, thanks to Ms. McCall and Ms. Thompson for being here. It's been very informative having you guys here. So last but final question: what advice would you give to someone who's trying to, have their first musical showcase, or like an open mic, they're trying to host their first concert, anything like that?
I think one of my things that I would offer is you are, and one of the things that I have to always remember is that you're amazing as an individual, but sometimes, reaching out and asking for help from people that surround you and being able to create a village of people that do so many different things is so important. And honestly, I think we alluded it in the last question, but who is so important. because it can make things a lot easier. So connecting with venues and seeing how you can work with them for maybe for free or for a small amount of money, or working with people that you have in your community in order to provide instruments or a DJ, is really a way of kind of skirting around some of the costs that come with actually having to put on a huge event. And then work on like branding out and really giving notice to what it is that you're actually creating, and create a whole brand around it. Like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What's people's experiences? Never forget what people's experiences are, or at least give that some thought, because people do remember how they felt. And it's really, really, really important for you to at least think through that journey as well. So I know a lot of showcases, sometimes they charge people in order to even be on the showcase. Think about what that might look like for your brand, or how that might come across. And think through ways that you can at least be organically provide an opportunity for people that are attending your showcase, but also the artists that are, supporting it with their own art as well.
All right. Nikkita, what do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the first things to recognize, and Daria mentioned a bunch of times, is the fact that like things cost money. You definitely, and you want to leverage those connections so you don't have to pay out as much cost as possible. But it's important that when you're starting to do the event, the first things you're starting to do is collect the costs. Even if you have that relationship with the DJ, if you have that relationship with the venue, you should still make a note of what that cost is, because when you want to go out and do, you did a performance in one place, you want to go out and do more of them, you need to be able to say to yourself, in order for me to do a performance, it costs X. I have to pay the DJ this. I have to pay this amount for the Uber. I have to rehearse, and get rehearsal space. So make a note about all of your costs. And then also thinking about cross promotion. I did a show with the Internet, which is, like a amazing band, if folks haven't heard of them yet. But they one of the tours that they did, they opened for this older band that I also really love, named the Gorillas. And one of the reasons why they did that is because now the Internet has the older crowd, the Gorillas, that's going to learn about them and come to know them and might love their music and start, buying albums or buying tickets to performances or buying, streaming them. And then the Gorillas gained the younger crowd because of, who the Internet is a really young band. And so there was cross promotion there. So think about who you can do that with. If, you're a rapper and you have a certain type of sound and there's a female rapper that has a similar sound to you. And then there is a singer who is somewhere in between maybe you two, or maybe something completely different, but you have a great relationship with. You can start to build a show around that, because if you have, your fans will come, the female rapper, their fans will come, and then the singer, their fans will come. And next thing you know, you have 50, 75, 100 people there to watch this entire show, there to watch everyone. So just kind of think about, who's out there. I think one of the biggest things that you see today with social media and, SoundCloud and all those things is the fact that like artists are constantly connecting with each other. And I think that it's very clear that like when a producer blows up, an artist can also blow up with that producer and vice versa. So, if you're getting on these programs or these apps and you're meeting the producer out in Oakland, California, like it means something. It seems like it doesn't matter, but it really does mean something, because if a beat that he did for another rapper pops, and you already been working on that beat and working with this producer, you can very well pop, you know, from that experience as well. So keeping the connections that you have amongst your peers or the people that you're meeting is very important.
That's lit. Bianna, it's all on you.
Thank you for bearing with me with my internet connection. I have no questions at the moment, but I felt that everything you said was really insightful, and it will be useful for anyone who watches. I don't know if anybody else has any last questions that they want to ask. Feel free before we end this podcast.
Tap's thinking hard.
You thinking,
I'm
Tab?
trying to see Tab.
I'm thinking, because a lot of the stuff that they said, like I know it's real, and I've been trying to work on that. But they definitely told me some stuff that I could brush up on, as far as just collaborating more and looking for people and other artists in a certain space that is kind of similar to me, I would say. But yeah, I just appreciate the information. And this is an opportunity that I can take to grow. And yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to add just to what Nikkita said as well is like, even Tab, as you're like trying to touch different audiences, make sure that you're setting up like goals and like markers of what success looks like for you. So like even being able to be like, hey, I want to have this concert, but like, why is it that you want to have it? Like, start defining what it is that what would look like success, or what you're trying to do. Because if it doesn't ladder up to a goal, then it might not be the right move at that time. So if it is that you want to get more social media followers, then maybe it is that you need to work with someone that has this huge following, or like just to be able to route yourself in the right direction when you actually set goals. And I think that sometimes we're like, yeah, I want to be at this club, but like if that club doesn't have is not going to meet a goal that you, or ladder up to one of your goals, then it might not be necessary, and it might be noise. So
yeah.
Right.
And
I know earlier you mentioned. Oh.
No, go ahead. No, you got it.
I know earlier you mentioned something about finding your why. I'm in like the midst of like redefining my why, on why I do music, and I think it's a great transition. And yeah, I'm just trying to reorganize, reflect, and yeah, the foundation on why I'm doing what I do now is definitely changed.
Yeah, I think even in our careers, you kind of have to always define, or at least ask it. I mean, in any career, you have to ask yourself what the why is. And I think that sometimes even going, like, like evolving it is important, but even understanding why you started sometimes is great. Like, I know that through my career, there's some things that are icky, or that have like rubbed me the wrong way, or have like kind of murkied the water a little bit. But sometimes when I ever have to be at question as to why I started something, or why it resonated with me at first, I have to go from why I started. And I think it's great that you're kind of evolving that as you grow too, because, as you grow older, you have different things that are important to you. So it's really necessary. So.
Thank you.
And Tab, like any special guests that we have here on our podcast, we can always connect you to them. So you can always shoot them an email if you need any type of guidance or anything, and that goes for any teams. So I just wanted to let you know. So,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm always looking for mentorship. I'm always looking for more knowledge on how I can grow as an artist, and just how I can impact the world.
That's important. Well,
yeah, so I appreciate you for coming on. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nikkita and Daria, for participating in this podcast. We're so glad to have you. I know the teens will love it when they watch this footage and learn so much from you both. So
thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
All right.
Guys, thank you.
Have a good day.
Oh,
Wait.
wait.
Oh, RB, you want to say something?
Don't forget to come back for Monday's podcast. Monday, same place,
Okay.
4 o'clock, Zoom. We're here. We almost forgot that. Yeah.
All right.
In there.
You're good. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, y'all.